On the 28th of July, we consumed all that our planet's ecosystems can regenerate in 1 year. Henceforth, any resource we use will be over and above the planet's tipping point. According to the president of the Global Footprint Network, from the 1st of January to the 28th of July, humanity has used as much from nature as the planet can renew in an entire year. This day has arrived earlier and earlier since the UN started collecting data in 1970.
What's Earth Overshoot Day? From January 1st to July 28th, humanity has used as much from nature as the planet can renew in the entire year. That's why the 28th of July is Earth Overshoot Day. For example, if the entire world lived like residents in the United States on average, Earth Overshoot Day would already be on the 13th of March this year. So that's pretty early.
Earth Overshoot Day officially marks the point when two factors run out of the basket. First, humanity's ecological footprint, and second, our planet's biocapacity. Our ecological footprint is the land that we need to produce everything that we consume: cropland, fisheries, forests, and the waste that we generate. Our planet's biocapacity encompasses the resources that our planet has for meeting our consumption needs and can regenerate every year. According to the data collected by the United Nations and used every year by think tank Global Footprint Network to calculate Earth Overshoot Day, we have not been living within Earth's means since the early 1970s. Human consumption now requires the natural resources of 1.75 worlds instead of a single one, and half of this for food alone.
The Earth has a lot of stock, so we can deplete Earth for some time, but we cannot overuse it forever. It's like with money. We can spend more money than we earn for some time until we're broke. If you really want to maintain prosperity and good lives for people, the question becomes, do we have the resource security to enable that? So the goal is no longer like, how can we maximize economic activities? But the real goal is, how can we operate so we don't deplete our resource base?
But how the global footprint calculates the overshoot day every year? Earth Overshoot Day is calculated by dividing the Earth's biocapacity by man's ecological footprint and multiplying the result by 365 days. Similar calculations are applied on a country-by-country basis to determine country overshoot days each year. In addition to the overarching Earth Overshoot Day, there is also a focus on individual countries as they reach the country overshoot days. The country's performances vary widely. Qatar's overshoot day is as early as 10 February, while the US would consume its one-year resources at the current phase on the 31st of May, while Jamaica makes our planet's resources last until just before Christmas. In 2020, the date moved back 3 weeks due to the COVID-19 pandemic before returning to the pre-pandemic levels. As per the two NGOs, 55% of our planet's biocapacity goes towards feeding mankind. A large part of that is used up to rear and feed animals that are used for meat. And the worst part is that 1/3 of the food produced worldwide is wasted. According to the Global Footprint Network, if meat consumption was reduced by half, the date of the overshoot could be delayed by 17 days. With us on the broadcast this minute is Dr. Paul Dorfman, Associate Fellow, Science Policy Research Institute at the University of Sussex. Thanks very much for being here with us. If you can just first of all tell our viewers about the significance of the very fact that this resource consumption has reached such a worrying point.
It's clear that we overconsume. It's clear that that's driven by essentially, greed and/or the need to meet our needs. It's also clear that we're in a total mess in the context of climate. Now, one of the main keys to climate is power. How we generate, how we use, how we transport power. That's the key to developing nations, that's the key to so-called developed nations, and that's the key to how we approach the climate catastrophe. Now, in that context, there are all sorts of ideas about what we should do next. But looking to the facts, we see that in 2021, 84% of all new generation was from renewable sources. 84% was from renewable resources. And then one comes to the question of cost. Renewables cost around $30 to $40 per megawatt hour. New nuclear, for example, costs about $150 plus dollars per megawatt hour. And then one turns to the issue of climate and climate impact on the kinds of ways we produce energy. Now, renewables are flexible. They're not brittle forms of power. They're forms of power that one can work with. Unfortunately, questions about nuclear by the coast, we know what will happen with the coast. It'll start to flood. And inland, already France is switching off its nuclear reactors because of cooling problems with overheated water. At the moment, half of France, the nuclear state by excellence, has half of its nuclear capacity down via corrosion, aging, but also increasingly through low and heated river problems. So when one considers the issue of climate, one has to consider the issue of power.
Right. Let's talk about the difference in consumption by different countries like Qatar and US consuming resources much more quickly as compared to countries like Cuba and Jamaica.
There's no question that so-called developed countries just overuse power, overuse resources, overuse consumer goods, overuse problematic agriculture. So that we're not talking about an even playing field here. Developing nations have not contributed substantially to the problem that we're seeing. It's largely the development, the hyper-developed nations that have essentially done this to us all. In the first place, via the Industrial Revolution, when one didn't know better. But for a long time now, for at least 30 years, we have known, the scientific community has known what is going on. And the key is basically living within our means and understanding that the climate crisis is not simply a technological crisis. It's a social, political, strategic crisis in that it involves leveling up. It involves allowing all of us to live together in one world. And when one goes back to questions of power again, which one must do in terms of the climate, it's very difficult. I mean, the majority of wars that we've been fighting, maybe even the Ukraine war, it's a pipeline war, has been to do with power generation, power transport. It's very difficult to fight over wind. It's impossible to fight over wind. It's impossible to fight over sun. So once, within all the mire that we see ourselves in terms of the climate crisis, there is one great hope, and that hope is the renewable evolution. And that will change not only the way we think about ourselves when we switch on the power that we need, we will know it comes from a renewable source, but it also will change strategic, political, and military imperatives at the same time.
Dr. Paul Dorfman, appreciate very much joining us on the broadcast and sharing those insights. WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.